Choosing Home by ginnyrules27. Chapter 17. Ben sighed as he sat down in his chair. He wasn't hiding. No, not in the slightest. He knew he had calls that he had to make. Aurora and Philip needed to be informed. His dad needed to know it was safe to come home. Not to mention, what kind of friend would he be if he didn't call in to check on Chad? He should at least see if Chad got back to his castle safely, with how he had almost sprinted out of Fairy Cottage. Plus, there was something telling him that it might be a good idea why he could recuse himself from running the trial. The last thing he wanted was to give Freddie a chance to argue that the trial was biased against him due to Ben being a factor.
Right. Okay,
he said with a small sigh. He really needed to make these calls. He needed to stop dragging his feet on this.
So, all I have to do is call the mother of the woman I used to be in a betrothal contract with and tell her that not only was her daughter apprehended with the stolen scepter and the Queen's crown, but that there is a likelihood that her daughter would need to be tested for a possible pregnancy, to say the least. Thank God Aurora is not like her mother.
There was no point in dragging his feet, though. He just needed to grit his teeth and make the call.
Queen Aurora, I hope I'm not bothering you. I know it's a rather late hour.
King Ben, I was hoping you would call. Aurora stated, I've been hearing the rumours about Audrey. Phil even texted me before he arrived home from young Jane's party. Are the rumours true? I'd rather hear it from you than anyone else. You're one of Audrey's oldest friends. Ben couldn't help the small sigh that escaped his lips.
Sadly, the rumours are true, Your Highness. Audrey stole Maleficent's scepter and the Queen's crown from the museum, and is the one responsible for the kingdom-wide sleeping curse. And, forgive me, but may I speak bluntly?
Of course, King Ben, Aurora said, her voice soft. Please, I want to know the truth.
She also broke Fred Frollo out of custody. He was the VK who attacked Cotillion, to assist her in her actions. There are suspicions that Audrey and Freddie partook in... Forgive me, Aurora. I wish I could tell you this under happier circumstances. Actually, I wish Audrey could be the one to tell you, but... There is a chance where Audrey may be pregnant.
Aurora sighed. Thank you for telling me, King Ben. Her father and I will be there momentarily, but we will definitely need to have Audrey tested for pregnancy. Can you tell me that if it was at least consensual? It was clear that, by the way Aurora's voice halted near the end of her question, that she wasn't even sure if she wanted to know.
I can only assume that it was consensual, Ben told her. The only evidence we have that an encounter like that exists is...
Ben? Aurora said, as Ben faltered. How could he tell Aurora that the bed in question in Fairy Cottage had been hers?
It's speculation that the encounter occurred when we still needed to have Audrey tested for the possible pregnancy, to err on the side of caution.
Thank you for informing us. Philip and I will be there soon, Aurora said. Ben could hear her call to Philip to have Henry bring the limo around, and he felt his heart clench. Soon, he would have no choice but to watch his friend be tried.
Please, Audrey. Please have something related to regret,
he thought once more. King Ben?
Yes, Queen Aurora?
Ben asked, pulling himself back out of his thoughts. Audrey, she'll be sent to the Isle, won't she? Aurora asked, and Ben's heart broke for her. This wasn't a queen asking about one of her subjects, but a mother asking about a daughter.
In all honesty, it depends on how the council votes, Ben told her, but more than likely, yes. She will be sent to the Isle.
Aurora sighed. We'll be there soon.
Yes, Your Highness. I'll let my staff know so they'll be awaiting you.
Thank you, Aurora said, and Ben raised a hand through his hair as they disconnected the call.
That's one call done,
he thought as he looked in at his phone.
Now, do I call Dad or check in with Chad? Do I do my duty as a son or a friend?
He shook his head. Checking on Chad was more pressing. In fact, with how he had been when they found him, one could argue that not checking on Chad could impact the trial if it came out during it. There was no point in putting it off any longer. Quickly dialing a number that he knew by heart, Ben sighed as he listened to the ringing on the other end. He knew at some point he'd have to go and check in on Mal and the others, see if anyone needed to be relieved for the night. But if he saw Freddy, there was a chance he might kill him. And if he saw Audrey... King Ben? Cinderella's voice called out from the other end, and Ben smiled slightly.
Queen Ella, I'm sorry for disturbing you. I was just calling in to check on Chad. See how he's doing after everything.
You know what happened, Ben? He won't tell us anything, Cinderella said.
It seems as though Chad was held captive by Princess Audrey and Fred Frollo during their onslaught, and when we found him when we seized Fairy Cottage, he had... Queen Ella. He had been shoved into a closet and left there for I don't know how long.
Cinderella gasped upon hearing that. Alex! She came home in near hysterics. But all we could get out of her was Chad and trouble.
From what Jane and Carlos told me, Freddy was targeting Alex and Chad ran up to defend her.
Ben said, not seeing any reason to use Freddy's legal name in the discussion anymore.
I am so sorry, Ella.
It's not your fault, Ben, Cinderella told him. Ben sighed.
Audrey and Freddy have been apprehended, and are due to stand trial, if that's any comfort.
It is, actually. Or it would be, if Chad would say anything. But he hasn't said a word since he came bursting into the castle, as if he had run all the way there.
He probably did,
Ben thought, as he remembered how Chad had nearly sprinted out of Fairy Cottage.
When we found him, the first thing he said was that he wanted you, Ella.
Ben said, figuring it would hurt the gentle-hearted queen less to hear that he had been told that Chad was curled up in a ball and had uttered the phrase, I want my mummy. Something Chad hadn't said when he and Ben were 4. Ben, would it be alright if I send Kit in my stead to the trial? I can't leave Chad right now, and it wouldn't be fair to ask the girls to watch him.
Of course, Ella. Whatever you need. Please let me know,
Ben told her. Thank you.
Ben nodded. Of course, Queen Ella. Like I said, whatever you need. We'll be expecting Kit, and hopefully we can soon put all this behind us.
Of course, Ben. Thank you. I'll let you know if there's anything.
There's no thanks needed, Ella,
Ben told her. It may not be needed, but it's given all the same, Cinderella told him. Kit should hopefully be there soon. I'll need to tell him about the trial, but other than that, he'll make his way right there.
Understood, Ben nodded. I'll keep you updated if there's any change to the trial.
Appreciated, Ben. I'll keep you updated if Chad's condition changes.
Thank you, Ella, Ben said. Have a good night.
He disconnected the call and leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair as he let out a sigh. One more call. And he needed to let his dad know that he was all right. He needed to let Mom know it was safe to come home.
I want my Mom,
Ben thought as he leaned forward, absent-mindedly playing with his phone.
I want her to wrap me in her arms and tell me this is all a bad dream. That I'll wake up and it's the day of my wedding instead of the night of the trial of one of my oldest friends.
He shook his head and punched in the number in his dad's cell phone. One more call and all this would be over. One more call and he could go and be with Mal.
Dad, I hope I'm not disturbing you or Mum. Ben? Oh, thank God. Is it over? It's over, Dad, Ben nodded. We called Audrey and Freddie at Auradon Prep. Thankfully there was no one injured, but there is an unforeseen complication. How severe are we talking about, Ben?
Ben sighed.
Dad, there's a chance Audrey's pregnant. When we stormed Fairy Cottage, the bed covers were messed up in a way that didn't make it seem like the bed had been slept in. Forgive me, but Audrey doesn't seem like the type to do something like that.
Beast said.
Well, apparently she is now.
Ben said, shaking his head.
I saw that bed personally, Dad. Got it. Your mum and I will pay for any therapy you need if you want, Ben. Even if you didn't see it yourself, the very image that produces. Have you called your council yet? Not yet, Dad. I called Queen Aurora to inform her of everything, since I don't trust Freddie one bit not to spring that possibility on them in case to try and gain sympathy for either himself or Audrey. And Queen Ella to check in with Chad, and now this call with you.
Beast sighed.
Ben, the thought occurred to me. You and I are too connected to both Audrey and Freddie for anyone to argue we can fairly run the trial, especially after what Freddie did at Cotillion. Right, Ben nodded. What about asking King Eric to run the trial? He's on the council, but is not even remotely tied to Audrey or Freddie. You're not going to ask Kit? Dad, they shoved Chad in a closet and tried to go after Alexandria. Kid would run a fair trial if it hadn't been for that. Knowing Freddie from what Miles told me, he would try anything to get under Kid's skin and get a reaction, thereby being able to argue that the trial's being biased against him. Smart. That's some smart thinking, Ben. That's your mum's brains right there. You're smart too, Dad. Don't sell yourself short. I'll see you when you get here, okay? Though, Dad, Audrey's probably going to try and bring up the betrothal contract during the trial. She tried to argue that she was the rightful queen when we captured her.
Beast sighed.
I'm not going to lie, Ben. It's been hard having nothing to do but actually grieve your sister for once, rather than bury myself in my work. Especially seeing that locket you gave your mother. But I think I'll be okay if Audrey does bring up the betrothal contract. Mainly because Leah won't be in attendance. Oh, God, if Leah was there, it definitely wouldn't be pretty. I can almost be certain someone would lose their hearing because of it.
Ben snorted in amusement.
You've spent too much time with Chip, haven't you? You know how you said you didn't think you could order Chip to come with your mother and myself to the safe castle? Well, he appointed himself our guard and kept a close eye on both of us. I swear, Ben, the only respite I got was when I was in the bathroom, and there were times I wasn't sure about even then. Who do you think trained Amir and Akio? I swear 9 times out of 10 I'll just be thinking about them, and then they'll appear out of nowhere. But, good. I'm glad you're okay, Dad, and so's Mum. Once this is over, you two take a nice long vacation. As long as you do the same, Ben. Even kings get breaks, you know. I know, Dad.
Ben nodded.
But I'll make it a few years, and then Mal and I will go on a really nice honeymoon. And that's where we'll table this conversation, because I'd rather not think about my son on his honeymoon. I still remember you as a little boy clutching that plush dragon of yours. Dad, you're not going to bring up Flamey around Mal, are you? Well, I wasn't before. Dad! Ben, what does it matter? She's your fiancée, and I'm pretty sure your friends have already told her about your old dragon obsession. I think Chip still got that old thing somewhere if you wanted. Maybe if I have kids, Ben said with a small smile pulling on his lips. Now I should go and call Eric before it gets too late, and he retires for the night. You're calling your council, Ben. He'll be up regardless. Right, Ben sighed. See you soon, Dad. Love you. Love you too, Ben.
The call ended and Ben sighed once more, shaking his head. Despite wanting nothing more than to curl up under the covers and pretend like he wasn't the king of Auradon, he knew that wasn't something he had the luxury of doing. It was time for one more call, and then he had to move forward. For the trial. God, was there ever a time when his life was easy?
Hello, King Eric?
Ben asked as Eric picked up his phone.
Oh, hello, King Ben. What can I do for you?
Eric said. One of the things Ben loved about Eric was that he always seemed laid back, yet always made you feel like he only wanted to talk to you.
Actually, I was calling to ask for a favour. I was hoping you might be able to preside over the trial.
Trial, King Ben?
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. In all the excitement, I forgot I haven't called my council together yet. Princess Audrey and Fred Furlow will be brought before the council to stand trial. You two, who we are sentencing, my father and I are too closely affected.
Of course, King Ben.
I understand, and I want to help where I can. Thank you,
Ben said, holding back a sigh of relief.
You're welcome, sire,
Eric said, making sure to keep his voice gentle.
Do I need to know anything? Charges? Right, Ben nodded. Princess Audrey is being charged of breaking and entering into the Museum of Cultural History, theft of the Queen's crown and Maleficent scepter, breaking a convicted criminal out of his cell, throwing a coup against the Kingdom of Auradon and its royal family, using magic without permission, attempting to curse the king and succeeding in cursing the future Queen of Auradon, and last but not least, aiding in the psychological torture of an heir to a royal family.
And Frollo Jr.?
Fred Frollo is being charged with escaping imprisonment, aiding in a coup against the Kingdom of Auradon and its royal family, aiding in the attempted cursing of the king and successful cursing of the future Queen of Auradon, psychological torture to the heir of the kingdom's throne, and everything that occurred at Cotillion.
Understood, Your Highness.
Eric nodded. Thank you for this, King Eric. Ben said, I would have hoped to run the trial myself, but...
Ben, you may be the King of Auradon, but even kings need assistance, Eric told him. I'll be there soon. Ben couldn't help but smile as he heard that. It was nice to know that his council was in his corner after all of this. Or at least just one member of his council. Ending the call and hanging up, Ben stood up and pulled down his shirt before he grabbed his jacket and buttoned it up. It was time to finally get this taken care of. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Okay, chapter 1 of the Fallout. So Ben's making all those calls. I'm sorry if some of the Queen's voices have changed. I'm trying to make them distinct from each other. In the original Disney movies, Cinderella and Aurora both have very tall syllables like this. They extend them, making it almost operatic with the way they speak. But I always saw Cinderella and Fluttershy basically being the same character in different worlds, so I tried to make Cinderella's voice a bit more like Fluttershy's. Not quite as breathy, but still high and gentle and soft. While Aurora still has some of that song quality to her voice, because of the gift of song she was given when she was a baby. I've actually got something to run by you guys. I'm starting to do audio files for a fictional world I myself have made up, and it is very similar to this. But it's more like it's where fairy tales happen, and the main character is a background noble who helps the fairy tale characters find the happy endings. So she is basically someone that every royal family grows to love, like a sister or a cousin or an adoptive daughter, and eventually she is attacked, and suddenly the entire continent of where our stories come from, the land of Ancora, blows up. Because they're so worried that she'll be in danger. If you like the sound of that, tell me and I'll see what I can do. I have no idea where this will go. It might just be me rambling about it. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.